raised religious too. So just being born, by virtue of being born, I am destined for hell, according to the way. Yeah. So there we go. That's what we do. Hi, I'm James Kerr. I'm a tattoo artist, musician, and a trauma survivor. Been on this healing journey for a long time now, and it's led me here talking to you. I enjoy talking about heavy stuff like life, death, spirituality, trauma, and ways to cope with trauma. But it's not all serious. I like to joke a lot too. Welcome to the Fire of Truth podcast.
Cheers.
Salute.
Salute.
Yeah.
You guys want an Altoid?
Yes, please.
Sure.
Oh, me too.
I spit my chewing gum out because I
Oh, perfect.
didn't want to chew.
One for you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Welcome to the podcast. Thank you guys for being here.
Thank you for having
Yeah,
us.
thanks for having us.
Abbie, Charlie.
James.
Yes, that's me.
Yeah.
Let's get the social media plugs going first.
Oh, yeah.
So we can find you at
Stabbie
Yeah.
Abbie 22.
Stabbie Abbie 22, and you.
On Instagram at Charlie Darling XOXO.
Okay, let me write this down. So Stabbie, which I know already, but I want to put that in the show notes. Stabbie Abbie, all lowercase,
All lowercase.
with an IE on both,
Yes.
and two B's.
Two B's.
Two B's, two IE, no, four B's, two IEs, 22.
And two
And
twos.
then-
Yep.
Yes. And then Charlie Darling, 22.
707. No, XOXO.
No, Charlie,
Charlie with an IE.
IE as well.
Yeah.
Hey, IE.
IE.
Charlie Darling, LING, XO.
XOXO.
XO.
Yeah.
Okay. There's your, and I'll put the, what you call it, in
make sure that's
screen
right.
too. Yeah, make sure that's right. That's good. Good.
Just real quick.
If you guys have any photos that you want to display, like I usually like to display a tattoo or piercing
Cool.
photos, like in this section right here, which
Sweet.
I don't know where would it be. So wherever I'm talking, and then like in front of me, is it here? I don't know. Is it here? Maybe.
It's like here.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
Yeah. It's here.
Here.
Where did the picture
here.
like? They're right here in this ethereal plane. Right
I see it. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm here for that.
It's great. So you got it right.
Yes.
Okay, good. So these are the hard questions. What's your name?
Complicated.
Yeah,
Complicated.
totally. Awesome, you guys. Thank you so much for being here. I've been working with you guys for over a year now, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've been piercing for a minute because when I started, you were
I was-
just shop help.
Yeah, it was just shop help. I wasn't even in my apprenticeship yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's been a little over like a year and a half then because
Yeah.
I've been piercing for about a year already.
That's neat. Fuck.
I
I'm
know.
getting old.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you've been tattooing. You've been out of your apprenticeship for a minute, right?
I still consider myself to be in the apprenticeship.
Yeah. That's
But it's been Abbie and I basically started around the same time. She was shop help before I came on.
okay.
And Ted was like, we're going to fast track you. I'll be tattooing in 3 months. And I was like,
Yeah.
nervous about that. But
Yeah.
3 months in, he was like, go get some lunch and then we'll come back and have you tattoo on some fake skin.
Okay.
And then I came back and he was like, surprise, you're going to tattoo yourself.
Oh wow.
So I just reworked an older tattoo that a friend of mine had done
Right.
during her apprenticeship.
Right. Well, we talked to Alex in the last episode, and he probably had the hardest apprenticeship that under Ted has had.
Yeah.
He probably had the easiest one. So we're seeing there's this the story arc of Ted kind of like interwoven in all of our lives because he's had a
Right.
big influence in all of our lives, right? It's fucking awesome. And he's gone to this kind of just more gentler route, I guess, for lack of a better way to put it.
Yeah.
They'll still fuck you up though, huh?
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I protect my ribs to this day.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's great. Yeah, and that I was asking something else and I can't remember now, so I guess I'll just move on to You guys grew up in kind of opposite places, right? You grew up in LA.
I grew up in LA.
And you grew up in rural Montana.
Yep.
What was it like for you growing up? And then we'll come to you.
Yeah, sure.
Because it's like opposite.
Yeah.
I'm sure you guys had like similar.
Yeah, well, I grew up in the San Fernando Valley, so I was just always around a bunch of Black and brown kids. Like, it was super, super normal. Like, Hispanic culture was super ingrained into every single thing we did. Like, Latinidad was just very present everywhere. Like, the murals, the music, the events that we had going on. So that was very normal for me. So moving up here into a very white area, that was a huge, huge culture shift.
Yeah.
And it wasn't something I even noticed that I grew up around until I left it.
Wow.
But yeah, I grew up there with my 2 parents and then my 2 younger sisters. And then my parents are both first generation here.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you're basically. So your parents were born here?
Yes.
That would mean to be first generation here,
Yes.
right?
So,
Okay. So your grandparents immigrated.
Yes.
Okay.
And they all kind of did it around the same time. They're both sets of my grandparents are from 2 different parts of Mexico. And in like the same year, they moved to the same part of the San Fernando Valley. All my grandparents met in the valley.
Right.
We met each other there. So
Wow.
yeah, my whole story lineage happened in the valley.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. My parents both grew up in San Jose.
Okay.
And so they met there, and so that's where my DNA started. I mean, between the 2 of them.
Yeah.
I'm sure it branches off.
Sure.
No, they were divinely descended from heaven, both of them. No.
Yeah.
And you.
I grew up in super, super rural southwestern Montana.
Okay.
My parents met on the Matador Ranch. My mom was a cook and my dad was a cowboy. And
Your dad was a cowboy.
my dad was a cowboy.
Like literally.
Hmm.
Okay.
Literally, yep. And I have 2 older brothers and then a younger sister. My oldest brother is a half brother from my mom's first marriage. And then there was 3 of us and we were all 2 years apart. And so I was in the middle and grew up in this tiny, tiny town called Argenta. It was outside of Dillon, Montana. And so like 200 years ago, Argenta was an old mining town. So there were like maybe 2,000 people that lived out there. And by the time that we had grown up, it was like a literal village of like 12 families.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, it was like classic Montana moment, hunting, fishing. A lot of our summers were spent gearing up for winter.
Right.
And so we'd go out and gather up our firewood and all that fun stuff. Lots of camping.
Wow.
Um,
And you weren't, it kind of seems like in rural Montana, when you say you're camping, that means you were just like you wander off into the woods and figure out a place to sleep, right? Like,
yeah, like there was this one, probably my favorite camping trips were at this lake called Estler Lake.
Okay.
And so it was like, there was Kelly Reservoir that was like above the town of Argenta that we lived in, like maybe 10 miles up. And then further than that, there was an old washed out road and there used to be like settlers out there too, that you could only really get to by hiking up there. Especially now, I think at certain points you could get a truck up there, but I don't know if that's still a thing.
Okay.
There's like old rundown cabins up there, and that was probably my favorite spots.
You have any photos of that stuff?
Somewhere, yeah.
Somewhere? Oh,
Yeah.
that'd be awesome to show people, or just to see myself.
Right.
Like, fuck people.
Yeah.
Kidding. I'm kidding.
Just kidding.
Slay.
Hey.
That's neat. So some of the did you end up like bringing some of the the family traditions up here with you? Like I know we kind of like celebrated during the Day of the Dead episode. You brought that kind of to the shop.
Yeah. Well, yeah, just like
Did
I
I
was
say
saying.
episode?
Yeah.
The Dead episode.
I understood you. Yeah.
Thank you.
That
you know
episode
English
was-
better than I do.
I understand Jamesism.
Yeah. Totally.
But yeah, like I said, it was something so normal that I didn't realize that it wasn't really done other places. So doing like the Day of the Dead stuff and just like other like random superstitions that my family had, I didn't realize. Yeah, because I make half the shop like not split a pole with me because I'm scared that we're gonna split a pole or like
Right.
any like little superstitious things like that. But when I moved up here, I did gravitate more towards like the Hispanic communities. Like my friends, the first few friends that I met up here, we all bonded because we all were bilingual.
Okay.
And we didn't really get the chance to practice that up here because it's a lot harder to do that.
Right.
So because we didn't want to lose our Spanish and get made fun of at home, we
Right.
started practicing with each other. And so we kind of kept that consistent. And then we would get together for dinners and stuff and make like classic like Mexican food that we would just like make at home.
Yummy. Mexican is my favorite. That and Italian food. So maybe that's why I got the con mucci.
The con mucci, that's where it comes from, yeah.
Like I'm like, oh, muy bien. And I mixed the two. Affect. What do you mean by splitting a pole? Is that like walking?
Oh yeah, like actually
where
like
a pole
splitting a
splits?
pole. Yeah, like that's a superstition.
Okay, because I don't know where I heard that, but I have that same superstition. Like if I have to split a pole, right when we're walking, like when the pole comes between us, I'll put my arm around it so that way when like my wife like is walking this way, like my arm is still connected.
Yeah,
to
you're
her,
not
and then I go,
split.
wah!
Yeah.
Oh, maybe.
Apparently, if you do split the pole, you're supposed to say bread and butter because bread and butter you make up for it over bread and butter, so you don't break that
I'm writing
relationship.
that down right now. Okay, bread
I
and
got
butter.
that from Abbie too. I've been doing
Okay,
that.
bread and butter.
Now putting your bag on the floor was the first thing that I taught a lot of people
Okay.
because I was always
Like
told
sleep or backpack?
like whatever you keep your money in, so like your backpack, like your
Okay.
purse,
I don't
like
keep my
that,
money in
like
the
that little backpack that I had,
Yeah.
like things like that. You're not supposed to put on the floor because what I was told, again, I don't know how accurate this is that my grandma told me that the devil is closer to your bag there, so he can get your money faster.
Oh,
And I was like, oh, okay.
Cool. Okay.
yeah.
Good. We'll come back. We'll come to that in a little while because we're gonna talk about like spirituality and like you had an NDE that like to talk about. So let's Charlie's. Tell me what like going to school there was like for you in Montana.
it was wild. So
Yeah.
like when we were growing up in Argenta, we would ride the bus into town, and Dillon sort of like was the larger town and that sort of did schooling for all of the other smaller towns in the area. So it
Every
was
time you say Dylan, I want to go Dylan.
Dillon,
I'm sorry.
Dillon, Montana.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To get it out.
It was wild. I think there were maybe 30 kids in maybe 100 kids, I don't know, in my grade. But overall, I will say that Dillon had a great like education system for what it was being so rural. I think the university that was in Dillon, Montana was one of the first universities in the state.
Oh wow.
And it was a teachers university. So it was like all female essentially.
Wow.
And still a really cool building. But so I, like as far as like a well-rounded education goes for what it was, I think it was great.
Right.
It was fairly intimate and teachers were really into it. And when I got older into high school and things like that was when I really started struggling.
Yeah.
And mostly around fitting in and being very stubborn and teachers like, oh, you need to do this. And I'm like, no, I don't.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Right.
I just couldn't really wait to get out of Dillon. So I made it like 2 months in my sophomore year. And then with my mom's help, we decided it would be best if I dropped out. And I worked a lot and got my own apartment. And then I went to Job Corps in Utah.
Oh. Utah. And that is west of Montana, right? Or
It's like southeast.
southeast. So
yeah.
I'm not even close to where it is. Yeah. There
It's
we
in
go.
the
We'll
same,
just
like-
edit this part out.
Yeah, Montana's like here and then solid, like,
Okay.
it's like right.
Because I
Yeah.
remember, I don't know, man, we were real tired on tour, like playing in Salt Lake City and then like driving through Montana to go into Washington. So Washington's the next one over, huh?
Yeah, there's like
Okay.
Montana, a little sliver of the tip of Idaho,
Yeah.
and then Washington.
Yeah. Nate, I'm American. I don't know anything about
I was
you.
literally,
Yeah,
I was
I
like, I'm trying to like map out my head.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And then your background, you grew up religious, right? And then
Yeah.
what the fuck?
Yeah.
Right?
Great question.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great question, James.
Yeah, that's my question. What the fuck?
Yeah. Yeah, I did grow up religious. My mom's parents were heavily involved in the church, still are. When they moved here from Mexico, that was kind of their main source of community.
Was it Catholicism?
Catholicism.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
And that was their main source of community was different people who were from the same town and they had this common religion that they were able to share this faith, and that's kind of how they all became friends. And that's how I know a lot of my grandma's friends. But they moved into a house that's a block away from the church. They still live there to this day. So they were super, super involved in the church. My mom and uncles all were in like the Sunday school, like church plays and things like that. A lot of their childhood friends that I call like Theo and Thea now were from their church groups and stuff like that.
And what? Say that again?
Like the people that I would call like my aunt or my uncles.
Oh, okay.
It's just my mom and uncle's friends from youth.
I have hearing aids, so I'm like, yeah, go ahead. Hi, this is James. Thank you so much for watching and listening to this podcast. If you're watching on YouTube right now, do me a huge favor and give it a like and subscribe to the channel. If you're listening to whatever platform you listen to podcasts on, you could rate it, you could review it, you could share it with a friend as well. That would help me out a lot. Either way, thank you very much.
I grew up with like, priests coming over to sleep at the house. Like, they were friends with my grandparents. Every time I say that, people stress out. I'm like, it wasn't weird. I promise. It wasn't scary. It wasn't weird. Right. I was safe the whole time. We were all safe the whole time. But it was just like family friends. You weren't the priest type, right? Hey! We'll edit that out. We're leaving it all in. But it was super normal for me. So I grew up going to church all the time. We would go to Sunday Mass with my grandparents. I did my first communion, and then my mom wanted my sister and I to do our confirmation. Oh, okay. A little twist for my mom was that I was gay and I didn't want to do that. Right. And so my whole thing was, well, I don't need to prove my relationship to anybody, like, but God. So that's how I was able to get out of that. Right. But my sister continued it. My younger sister is also like in confirmation classes. So it's still very apparent in all of my family. I walk in, there's like the Last Supper everywhere. There's like 4 crosses on each wall in the house. But they all still go to church all the time. It's still a very apparent thing. And when did you come out? Is that something your mom knew about? And why you didn't? Did she know any of that? I came out to my mom, I think, like last year. Oh. Yeah, it was a very recent thing. So I didn't really talk to either one of my parents for a while, and then our relationship has gotten a lot better in the last few years. So it was they're probably like, oh, I get it. Probably, yeah. I would think so. But I recently came out to my mom, well, like within last year, and it was good. It was a good, productive conversation. Mm-hmm. I do remember, I think that's when I first started working at the shop again, you were kind of like gearing up to do that. So I do remember that being a thing. Yeah. And I also came out like later in life. I didn't come out until I was in college, but that's just like growing up in like in the church and everything. Yeah. There's only one way that marriage is ever presented. And so when I was little, I was like, oh, that's not really my vibe. Like, I don't want to get married, things like that. And I've already kind of always had these like thoughts in the back of my brain, but I didn't connect all the dots as to why I felt these things. Right. But it's been great. My sisters are super supportive. My family is all pretty nice. Who knows? They're all great and supportive about it. So it was never like a shame thing. It was just I had no knowledge that was even an option. I see. That's good. Good. So there wasn't like, because the reason why I'm asking this, and maybe I can frame this with a little bit of background on my family. So my uncle, my dad's brother, he's gay, and he came out when he was like 36, and very fundamentalist, evangelical Christian family I was raised in, and on my dad's side especially, my mom's side we're all Portuguese Catholics, But when he came out, it was super late. He was 36 years old. But the reaction surprises me looking back on it now, knowing what I know now, is how relaxed my family seemed to be about it, though. They were like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Like, it seemed like there was like a missing piece of his puzzle that kind of filled in the gaps for our, like, assessment of his, like, activities and his life and stuff. So, but he wrestled with reconciling his religious beliefs with his sexual identity. Right. Yeah. And I think he may still do that. He may still wrestle with that. He hasn't been active, like sexually active in a long time. Mm-hmm. For me, like watching him seeing that, it really like made me go, man, I wish people could just be who they are openly without having to hide, without having to like feel like they're threatened or they're in danger. They shouldn't have to do that. And, like watching my uncle struggle with that. I mean, I kind of struggle with my own identity issues when it comes to my race, the way I grew up on a reservation. Right. Like makes me
made me like see more marginalized groups of people as my heroes.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So like you're all my hero. You know what I mean? Yeah. Thank you. That was going to lead me to like, that's kind of an open question for both of you, and I'd like to hear from both of you. Like, what kind of led you to NorCal Tattoo?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I'll start.
Yeah.
I had been working at Northtown Coffee for years, and working through the ganja industry is what initially brought me out to Humboldt.
Oh, let me see. We'll edit that out. I inhaled a little bit of water.
Actually, that sounds like a good idea.
Don't inhale it. It's not fun.
Noted.
You're not meant to breathe it.
No.
I'm just one of those guys who just wants attention. It's all right. That's why I have a podcast. Yeah. All right. What were you saying?
Working at the coffee shop.
Right.
Just right in the area, and knowing Ted and Amy over the years, I've always been an artist and love to draw and paint. Over the years I've really gotten into sculpture. I don't draw quite as much as I used to when I was a kid. When I was a kid, I was fully immersed in my creativity and my artwork, and I do a lot of drag as well. But
That's
yeah,
awesome.
I think just through working in the neighborhood.
That's Charlie Darling is your drag queen name, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
We love her.
Yeah, we do love her. You know,
She cleans up.
She does, you know.
Yeah.
And so you worked at the shop too, right? The coffee shop.
Yeah,
How the hell did you guys end up at NorCal? Ted and Amy came over and swooped you.
Yeah, Ted basically like swooped me up, like come check out this tattooing world.
Saw you dressed in drag and was like, yeah, let's go, right? And then you.
I lived right across the street from the old shop. So from my room, I was able to see into the tattoo shop. Yeah. So the day that I moved in, I FaceTimed my sister, and she's like, "You're gonna be so annoying with that."
Yeah.
And I was like, "What do you mean? That's crazy." And then sure enough, I got real annoying with it. The day I turned the day before I turned 20, I got my first tattoo. But I had already been going and getting pierced by Danny a bunch because it was right there, and she would post on her stories. So I'm like, I'll go.
And Danny's the shit.
Danny's the shit.
Yeah.
Danny is the reason I got the job at NorCal, was because I was her client and I would go a lot. And then I had seen that they made a post about needing someone to work front desk. Oh. And I was like, oh, wow, I live right across the street. I know these people. Yeah. And so I DM'd Danny and I was like, hey, like, if you wouldn't mind, I would really appreciate if you can put in like a good word for me. No worries if not. I just said I would reach out and ask. And she's like, yeah, dude, absolutely. Send me your resume. And then she put it right at the top of the pile for Ted and Amy. And yeah, I went in for an interview, and I think like a week later I got called back, and then I started working there. Yeah. And then I was just doing shop help. I was just answering the phone, like cleaning up for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because there's no apprentices in there.
No.
Yeah. Did you have to deal with any kind of like bullying or anything growing up? You know, or any of that kind of shit?
Oh gosh, yeah.
Oh
yeah. Lots of that,
yeah.
But also like I was always pretty good at making friends, and I was always really good friends with girls. Yeah. And so the girls always had my back. Oh, good. Like always. Yeah. And so I always felt very fortunate about that. When it comes to girls, I always tried really hard to at least be like bisexual. Right. I knew it pretty young that I was gay, queer. And then I was like dating girls, but I got to a point in my early 20s, like 2021, where I was like, I am done fucking with girls' heads. Yeah. And just like I was always very like expressive and didn't really have a lot of shame around being gay, but I also really love women. Right. I think women are really beautiful. Right. But I really just want to like braid your hair until you're pretty. Yeah.
Like, I think someone should braid my hair and tell me I'm pretty too.
Everyone deserves that.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
That's awesome. Okay. We're doing fucking awesome.
I also had a scary older brother. Oh. Who was like, I really didn't get, I feel like I've been pretty blessed throughout most of my life when it comes to bullying or like people messing with me type vibes. Like I don't really get a lot of the bullshit that I see happening for other people.
Yeah.
So I feel really blessed by that. I think maybe the scariest bullying moment that I ever had in my life was in Dillon, and I was maybe 16 or 17.
Sorry.
Yeah.
You were 16?
16 or 17. And I was walking down this dark alley, and there was this car at the end of the alley, and they I think they knew who I was and like saw me walking, and so they like revved up their car and started like coming at me real quick. And so I was freaking out and ran to this like door. It was to the Dilmart department store. And normally I would say that their back door is always locked, but for whatever reason, I was able to like get it open from the outside. So like open this door just in time to hear shut it just in time to hear the car on the other side like coming to a screeching halt, and then like them banging on the door. And then I went up into the department store and like hid for like 3 or 4 hours. Probably not that long.
Seemed like
But,
it.
yeah.
3 or 4 hours emotionally.
Yeah.
Right?
Just hiding in furniture.
Yeah. Damn. I mean, talking about we're not very far away, if we're even away from the fact that people get killed, you know, just for their sexual identity,
Mhm.
you know. So it's probably a good thing, and lucky that you found an unlocked door.
Yeah.
Right?
Totally random.
Yeah. And then, not to mention, like, kind of like maybe, you know, beating ourselves up if we're raised religious too, you know, for who we are. I mean, even though I'm a cis white male, I was raised religious too. So just being born, by virtue of being born, I am destined for hell, according to the way. Yeah. So there we go. Let's keep doing it. Okay, we're keeping that. All right.
The intro.
Yeah. That'll be like the hook. Like, and like then we'll cue the fucking intro video. All right. Fuck yeah, thank you. So speaking of sinner, let's talk about spirituality.
Yeah.
Great segue.
Yeah.
Right?
Are you good on water? Do you need more?
I'm fine.
Okay. You, Abbie, had an NDE, and which
did.
NDEs are near-death experiences, and I think that's a great way to kind of start off this kind of, you know, we were raised religious, we have life experiences that either reinforce that or don't, and for us, it didn't.
We didn't, yeah.
But it reinforced the more, and for me, realistic side of it. Like, we're wired for these experiences. Like we've talked about this before. Humans are wired to have like what people would call religious experiences or spiritual experiences, or just experiences of connection with their environment, you know, with the greater universe at large. Near-death experiences are a great way to kind of snap you into that too, like whether you like it or not sometimes. So I'd like to hear, like, let's hear your story.
Yeah.
What happened to you?